Hello and welcome to this edition of What the Hell Just Happened? The only vlog that anxiously looks forward to its own obsolescence. I'm your host, Martin Ganapola. This week we begin in the city of Osaka, Japan. And what the hell just happened in Osaka? This is where world leaders decided to hold this year's G20 summit, chiefly because they were upset at being unable to get good sushi in Buenos Aires last summer. The G20 is an annual meeting of the leaders of all the industrial countries and their bankers. The main objective of the summit is to decide how they want to divide up all the loot in the rest of the world without going to war over it. It's essentially like the meeting of the five mafia families in 1931, except everything's up for grabs, not just the East Coast. So of course our president wouldn't miss it. And why not take the kids too? Which he did. Prior to the summit, the Donald announced that he was going to meet with Putin while in Osaka. When a reporter asked what he and Putin would discuss, he told him it was literally none of his business, which of course is literally his only business. And while we'll never know what they talked about, since only Russians were invited, if past is prologue, I think it could be summed up by Shakespeare's Richard III. Conscience is but a word that cowards use, devised at first to keep the strong in awe. Our strong arms be our conscience, swords, our law. March on, join bravely, let us do it pell-mell, if not to heaven, then hand in hand to hell. Or something like that. There were lots of photo ops and press conferences during the G20. At one of them, Peter Baker of the New York Times asked the president whether he agreed with Putin that Western liberalism was on the decline. Now, most people familiar with the philosophies that made democracy a successful form of governance know what this question refers to. But our stable genius of a president, the one who's like really smart and went to the best schools to learn the best words, thought the reporter was handing him a softball question about liberal people living on the West Coast. So we talked about how LA and San Francisco had such terrible problems today. Yep. And in an interview for Trumpaganda TV, Tucker Carlson asked his opinion of school busing, since that was an issue that hurt Biden at the debates. His response was that if you need to get to school, many people choose the bus. Like this was a transportation issue. I kid you not. To be fair, though, I'm sure his kids had a limo, so who could blame the dotard for his confusion? At the G20, Trump immediately put the kids into action. Ivanka and Jared insinuated themselves into numerous uncomfortable conversations and inappropriate photo ops. Now, only history will truly judge, but I would opine that they contributed, well, to be fair, absolutely nothing to the summit. After the meeting concluded, the president made the big announcement that since he was in the neighborhood, why not drop by the DMZ with North Korea and meet with dictator Kim Jong-un? Why not? Because to enter the prison camp that is North Korea legitimizes that dictator and his murderous regime. Remember, Kim had an American, Otto Warmbier, murdered less than a year ago. Had his national security advisor John the Walrus Bolton been with him at G20, Trump might not have made the visit at all, which is why he literally sent Bolton to outer Mongolia this week. I guess the president might have thought, well, it's a risk to go to North Korea, but if you get something for it, maybe it's worth the risk. So what did Trump get? Bupkis. That's how my people say doodly squat. Technically, he did get an historic photo op for him and the kids, and well, won't that be great for the scrapbook? I mean, the presidential library. And what did Kim get for being in the meeting? He got to shake hands with the president of the most powerful and prosperous nation in the world. He got to be recognized as an equal and nuclear power like India and Pakistan. And he got to display his flag standing next to Old Glory as the Korean state TV crews scurried around knowing their lives depended on it, taping every moment. It was an utter triumph for North Korea. But for the USA, not so much. Now, just as a palate cleanser from the acrid taste of stale kimchi, let's come back to Bowie, Maryland, USA, the home of Michael Platt. For most of his life, Michael's had a passion for baking. He was so good at it, a couple of years ago, he opened a bakery in Bowie he calls Michael's Desserts. That was when he was 11. But Michael has another passion, and that is for helping people in need. His business model at the bakery is that for every pastry he sells, he gives one away to an underprivileged person. So once or twice a month, Michael travels from his hometown to Washington, D.C., so he can hand out dozens of baked treats to kids, adults, families in domestic violence and homeless shelters. I always wanted to have a purpose for what I do, Michael told the Washington Post. It's all about helping people, not just having a purpose for yourself, but thinking about how does this touch other things. Thank you, Michael. I couldn't agree more. And thanks to you for watching this edition of What the Hell Just Happened. Please join me next week for my historic 50th edition. Yeah, bye for now.